3, hit it!
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to today's Caffeine for the Soul. If you're new to these podcasts, or if you want to go deeper into the philosophical underpinnings, do check out our free basic course at michaelneill.org/basic course. Today, what I want to share is a whole new way of thinking about sin based on an ancient understanding, an ancient way of describing what sin really was. Now, if you were raised the way most people I know were raised, the way I was raised, the word sin, and this is from the online etymology dictionary, is a noun from the Old English sin, which means moral wrongdoing, injury, mischief, enmity, feud, guilt, crime, offense against God, or misdeed. And it goes from the German Sünde, transgression, trespass, offense, and so on and so forth. And we know it's bad and it's wrong, and humans have been doing it from the beginning of time, and religion is in many forms there to help us stop sinning and to make up for past sins. And in Christianity, the idea is that Jesus died for our sins. So we don't have to live with the sin, because in his death, our sins were lifted. And there are other traditions where there are sin eaters and other ways of getting rid of sin or making amends for moral wrongdoings, injuries, mischiefs, enmities, feuds, guilts, crimes, and offenses against God. Now, years ago, I came across another origin of the word sin. And that was that sin was a word that meant missing the mark. And it was an ancient term used in archery. So if you missed the target, you sinned. And missing the mark is an interesting variation on the use of sin, because if sin is a way of describing missing the mark, missing the point, well, yeah, we do sin. We actually don't want to sin, not because it's morally wrong or we're going to be punished, but because we kind of want to hit the target. We kind of want to be more on target in what we do. And so sinning now is no longer a cause for shame. It's just a sign that we're not yet as skilled as we want to be at hitting the target that we're aiming at living our life in the way we want to live it. And so sin becomes a more sort of helpful feedback term, like colder in a game of warmer, colder, than it is some kind of a moral imperative. So with that definition of sin, we could begin to take a phrase like Jesus died for our sins to mean, okay, so his teachings, his death. And by the way, if I am inadvertently offending anyone, Christian, non-Christian, feel free to either skip this or just translate as you go, because I'm literally just using this as an example. I'm not trying to say I know what this really means. But if you're up for playing with me, play with me. So in that case, if sin means missing the mark, then Jesus dying for our sins would be showing us the way, drawing a clearer path for how to live on target. And that's kind of I think most people wouldn't argue with that. They might say, well, that's not what it meant, and I don't know if it was, but they would say, yeah, that fits. Well, a few weeks ago, somebody sent me a little excerpt from Britannica online. And it was talking about sin in terms of religion. And it says, in ancient Greek thought, sin was looked upon in essence as a failure on the part of a person to achieve his true self-expression and to preserve his due relation to the rest of the universe. It was attributed mainly to ignorance. Now that kind of blew my mind. Because if you think about sin as, in essence, a failure on the part of a person to achieve his true self-expression and to preserve his due relation to the rest of the universe, well, that fits. There are absolutely times for me, and I'd be shocked if it's not true for you, where I know I'm not being true to myself. I'm not following my own inner knowing. I'm not following my own highest values. Well, okay, we can call that sin. Again, not sin as in a moral outrage, but sin just as in a description of not living up to, not being who I know myself to be in the world. But then take it further, and to preserve your due relation to the rest of the universe. At the highest level, all traditions, all spiritual traditions point to the fact that we are all one energy. We are all one spirit taking form. We are all one life in billions of lives. And when we remember that, when we feel that, when we sense that, we would no sooner declare war on our neighbor than our index finger would attack our pinky, because we're all part of the same body. And then the last line, which sounds almost like a throwaway, it was attributed mainly to ignorance. If you don't know what you're made of, if you don't know you're part of the whole, then you will act as a separate self, and you will live in a world of us and them, and you will create the problems that we recognize as the problems of the world as it is today and as it has been for thousands of years. So it also opens a really interesting interpretation of Jesus died for our sins. Jesus died in this understanding to show us our true self-expression, to show us our true relation to the rest of the universe as our brothers and sisters, as fingers on the same hand, as waves in the same ocean, as part of the same whole. And whether you find your way past sin through religion, through a spiritual teaching, or just through noticing, through looking into another human's eyes, another animal's eyes, sometimes just being out in nature and realizing we are all the same. That which is looking through my eyes is looking back at me through the eyes of another. And when we feel that, when we know that, we do no harm, not because it's morally wrong to do harm, but because we'd only be harming ourselves. Have fun, learn heaps, happy exploring, and I'll talk with you soon.